بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. We were talking about the topic of becoming Hussaini, reaching Imam Hussain through what we're learning from Ziyarat Ashura, what we learn from the lessons of the uprising of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. We talked about first how it's important to remember and commemorate the martyrdom of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Then after that session, we talked about bala and calamity and the trials of Imam Hussain being the first step for us to begin to understand Ashura, begin to connect to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Last night we talked about this topic, how to become a stronger person, how to become a happier person by maximizing our true joys and minimizing our pains, our agonies, and those pains or agonies that we cannot minimize or we cannot eliminate, we manage them through Ashura and learning what Imam Hussain alayhi salam did and the bala that he had and the trials and tests that he faced and how he coped with this pain. And what the narration will read tonight, not only did he have sabr and endurance and patience, but also he had shukr. He thanked Allah. He did dua that Allah would make him of the shakirin. So this is a great lesson for us to learn. Yesterday we mentioned six ways that we can, inshallah, deal with pain and to basically learn from Imam Hussain alayhi salam how to deal with pain. We said that these 6 paths there's other paths too, there's other ways, things that we can do to maybe deal with trials and tribulations. Right? We said the first one is awareness, acknowledging that pain and agonies happens to everybody. There's not one person that didn't have pain in this world. From the beginning to the end, there is pain. The second, we said that action, there are some types of bala, some types of trials that come from our own action, from us not doing something. And we're not talking about that, because a person goes and fixes it. A person has a plan and steps up and becomes and is disciplined, and if it's poverty or if it's health or something, they start to manage their own affairs and they take care of that problem. We're talking about those problems that we can't change. It's not in our hands. And we said that some of those balas that we can't handle, that aren't in our own hands, that come from Allah, some of them come from our sins. And we said that when we break the harmony of the universe, the overall rule in the universe is submission to Allah. And when we rebel against Allah, we're breaking this general principle and allowing bala and calamity to befall us. Then we talked about love of the world makes us susceptible to bala. The more we are attached to the world, the more we are susceptible for bad things to happen to us. We talked about remembering death and remembering the hereafter. There's also other things we can do to make us manage our trials and tribulations more. Then we talked about the quality of sabr and patience yesterday. And finally, we said that the Ahlul Bayt, when we connect to them, they remove themselves, they remove bala and calamity from us. This is a quality that the Ahlul Bayt have, that they remove bala. This is what they do. But tonight we said is a final solution, and maybe the main solution, but it is a little complicated. And it is important for us to pay attention tonight, because we have to make sure we understand this correctly. And it is this solution for us to live a life that basically we can now deal with pain. It is this. It is that man has to seek the commands of Allah. And when he seeks the commands of God, and he knows that one of the most important actions of Allah isn't just providing provisions for us. Providing provisions happens for animals too. Humans have provisions. God gives provisions to animals and humans alike. But what does Allah do? One of His most important actions. He is Allah. He is our Mawla. He is our master. And a master, what he does, he gives commands. And he tells his servant to do this. So one of the greatest actions of God is giving commands to humans. Because we said the purpose of creation is for humans to reach God. So when God gives commands to insan, and insan abides by those commands, he is becoming an abd, and Allah is showing His greatness and His rububiyyat and His lordship. This is one of the greatest actions of Allah, that He is giving us commands. And when He gives us these commands, and throughout our entire life that we learn and we are following these commands, researching what they are and abiding by them and following them. For example, the command of salat. From the morning, 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, you have to wake up for Salat al-Fajr. Then Salat al-Isha, another command. In the month of Ramadan, another command, don't eat. When a person follows these and fulfills the commands of Allah, what is he or she doing? What quality in them are they progressing? That is the quality of ubudiyat and being a slave of Allah. And the more a person becomes a slave and servant, because Islam, in the definition of Imam Ali alayhi salam, al-Islam huwa taslim. Islam is submission. Islam is being a servant of Allah. Once you develop this quality in you, you begin to live life much differently. You begin to live the life of a servant of Allah. And once you're used to abiding and following the plans of Allah, when Allah decrees something for you, it is much, much easier for you to cope with it. Because your entire life you're used to following the commands of Allah, and now you are following and being submissive to what He wants in your life. And when you develop this more and more, you notice that there is a joy to this. There is a sincere joy, there is a fulfillment in being a slave to Allah. Because it is fitri, it is inside our hearts. We are planned to be a slave. We have been programmed to be a slave of Allah. And this, of course, is not in the bad way. Sometimes when we say slave or servant, already our nafs hates this word. We don't like to even use it. But when we say we do taslim to Allah and we submit to Him, we begin to enjoy this ubudiyat. We begin to enjoy commands. We begin to, in some ways, when those trials and tribulations, even though they might be bitter for us, but when we reach a new stage, with the help of Allah, you reach a new rank, now you enjoy that new connection with Allah, and you put aside that old person that you used to be. So this is, maybe we can say, the final solution that a person has to, through his following and researching and seeing the commands that Allah has, he develops being an abd, a submissive servant to Allah, and then he begins to enjoy being a servant of Allah. And this is one of the greatest joys, as some of the ustads or the teachers of akhlaq say, that inside ubudiyat and being a servant of Allah, there is a joy. When a person doesn't have these commands, when a person doesn't recognize who Allah is, there is the opposite, there is pain. There is this sense that of being lost. I'm looking for someone to command me, but I don't know who is it, who is this being? And you see in humans, when they don't have this ubudiyat inside them, they are lost. They don't have that sense of fulfillment. So developing ubudiyat, or being a servant of Allah, is how Imam Hussain alayhi salam, through the most the worst trials and tribulations and bala that could happen, that happened to Imam Hussain, it made him strong. It made him, in the day of Ashura, they say, his face became, his holy face that was full of light, it became more lightier, more full of nur, and nur as Ashura progressed. Because this attribute of ubudiyat was going higher and higher and deeper in Imam Hussain alayhi salam, was being not deeper but was being manifested more. You would see the manifestation of a slave of Allah, and therefore Imam Hussain alayhi salam became full of light, they say, in the day of Ashura. One of the things when we have commands from God, one of the first things that it does is that you are fighting against your nafs, and it makes your ego and your desires go down. Because one of our worst enemies is our nafs and our ego. The famous narration, أعدى عدوك نفسك التي بين جنبيك. Your nafs that is in between your shoulders, in between you, your nafs, your ego. This is one of your worst enemies. And when man doesn't have that sense of ubudiyat or those commands of Allah, he's just allowing his nafs to roll free. He does whatever he wants, he says whatever he wants, he eats whatever he wants, there's no control. Then it's very interesting, the Quran says about such a person that when they have completely overlooked ubudiyat, it says, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَى. Have you not seen that person that has taken his nafs, his desires, as his own God? That at the end he falls into polytheism. That he leaves this untamed nafs. Instead of following Allah's orders, being a slave of Allah, he allows it to go free. But instead of thinking that being free is something good here, he ends up in polytheism and in shirk. So bala, brothers and sisters, in another way, bala and calamities, they themselves bring us towards Allah. When misfortunes happens to us, we're going to explain, inshallah, that we never do dua for bala to happen to us. We never do that dua, and look, we'll read some of the narrations if I forget to mention it. We never ever do dua. As it says, I'll say one narration, a person came to the Prophet of Islam, and he was old, and he did this dua that may Allah give me my iqab in this dunya so I don't have iqab in the akhirah. And he was sick, he was old, and Allah and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in this narration tells him, why don't you do this dua? رَبَّنَا آتَنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً. Why don't you do this dua? Why are you doing dua to punish me in this world? Do dua that I have a good life in this world and I have a good life in the hereafter. He did this dua and he became cured. So we never do dua for bala, and this isn't a speech encouraging bala or to us, na'uzubillah, start hurting ourselves or something. Or doing dua that Allah puts punishment towards us. No. This is about bala and bala that we cannot control. Bala that we said that it is not in our own hands, that it befalls all of us in different degrees and different ways. Bala in the narrations, it says that Imam Ali alayhi salam in a narration talks about bala as إن البلاء أسرع إلى المؤمن التقي من المطر إلى قرار الأرض. Bala happens to a believer faster than when rain. How fast does it take for rain to hit the ground? Very fast. The same way bala happens to a mu'min. But why? With this understanding and this explanation that I gave at the beginning, that Allah wants us to reach His proximity and closeness to Him, and that is only done through being a slave of Him. So Allah gives bala to us, to the mu'minin especially. Why? To bring us down, to make us submit to Him, to break our nafs, break our ego. Other narrations, إن أشد الناس بلاء الأنبياء ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الأمثل ثم الأمثل. First, bala happens to the prophets and the holy people, then it goes on the believers. Or we said in there's other narrations that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam وقد سئل عن الابتلاء المؤمن بالجذام والبرص وأشباه, things that are similar to leprosy and other diseases. Why does it come to the believers? There's Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was asked, and he says that وَهَلْ كُتِبَ الْبَلَاء إِلَّا عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِ? Were ordeals reserved for others than the believers? Isn't bala only for the mu'mineen? Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says. True mu'mineen. Because Allah, again, you can research and maybe Mizanul Hikmah or Scale of Wisdom, there's a nice section on hadiths of bala. There's different causes for it. And Allah gives you bala according to how much you can hold and take. There's a section on this. He won't give you too much bala because He knows if He gives you too much calamity, too difficult of a test, and you're going to fail, you're going to get misguided. And this bala that we're talking about is bala of the world, is dunya bala. It's not about the worst kind of bala and calamity, which is being separated from Allah. That's a bala that is not a test. That is bala that is true bala that we want to stay away from. This is about bala that happens in the dunya, bad things that happen to us. Because Imam Ali in this narration says, Ala wa inna min al-bala. Those that want to record this, and you can look at this narration in Nahj al-Balagha, the short sayings, 388. You can remember that and look in English. The end of Nahj al-Balagha has the short sayings. Ala wa inna min al-bala al-faqa, Imam Ali says. Beware that destitution and poverty is a calamity, he says first. وَأَشَدُّ مِنَ الْفَاقَ مَرَضُ الْبَدَنِ. He's talking about different balas. So the worst bala Imam Ali says that it is poverty. What's worse than poverty? Worse than poverty is being sick, is marad. Then it says وَأَشَدُّ مِنَ الْبَدَنِ مَرَضُ الْقَلْبِ. Being sick in the heart. This is not what we're talking about, this kind of bala that Allah brings. Then the opposite, he says, وَأَفْضَلُ مِنَ. Then he says, أَلَا وَإِنَّ مِنَ النِّعَمْ سِعَةَ الْمَالِ. And one of the greatest blessings of Allah is having money. Having a wealth is a blessing. وَأَفْضَلَ مِنْ سِعَةَ الْمَالِ صِحَةُ الْبَدَنِ. And higher, more important than having wealth, is being healthy. وَأَفْضَلُ مِنْ صِحَةِ الْبَدَنِ التَّقْوَى الْقَلْبِ. And better than all of these is having a heart that is full of chastity, full of taqwa and God-wariness. So this kind of bala, there's different types of bala. It's not the bala of darkness, the bala of shak and doubt, the bala of being separated from Allah. That is true bala. We're talking about calamities that come to us in this world, that come to our physical bodies, or bad things that happen to us. So in the narrations, these types of balas bring us towards Allah, it says. These balas are somehow called ni'mats. They are bitter ni'mats. In other words, altaf al-khafiyya, hidden types of favors from Allah. The more a person has closeness to Allah, the more they might face bala. And the more that they ask help from Allah and they go through this bala with the belief that they are going to be a servant of Allah and that whatever happens in this world, they don't have any plans, true plans, even though they have plans temporarily for themselves, but true plans or decrees happen from Allah. This person gets raised, and their rank goes higher and higher, and they reach Allah through being a servant of Allah. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam saw a person who was doing tawaf once, and this person was doing this dua that Allahumma inni as'aluka sabr. God, give me sabr, give me endurance, give me sabr. Then Imam Sajjad alayhi salam hit him on his kitf, on his shoulder, and said, basically you have asked for bala to happen when you ask for sabr. سألت البلاء قال, then he says, say this, قول اللهم إني أسألك العافية, ask for afiyah. Ask والشكر على العافية, ask for afiyat, and ask for to be healthy, to stay away from bala, and to ask for shukr and thankfulness. So when we're talking about bala, and I wanted to mention this hadith before I forgot it, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam is teaching us that don't do dua for sabr, don't do dua for bala, do dua for afiyat. Right? Bala is not something that we should do dua for. In one of the narrations that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam taught on Unwan Basri, and we talked about this narration in the month of Ramadan, we said that when Unwan Basri wanted to know about, when he was taught about ubudiyat and being a servant of Allah, there's three things that Imam Sadiq taught him. I'll mention to you two of them. Well, first of them, one of them I mentioned yesterday was that he doesn't own anything to be a slave. The second is that he entrusts all his affairs to Allah. All the tadbir, everything that's going to happen in this world, he entrusts it to Allah. He doesn't have any tadbir for himself. Third, and this is what relates to tonight's discussion, وَجُمْلَةُ اشْتِغَالِهِ فِي مَا أَمَرَهُ تَعَالَى بِهِ وَنَهَى عَنْهُ. That a true slave, all their attention is directed towards fulfilling the commands of Allah. And in this narration, it's teaching us that what should we be concerned about in this world? What should be considered our main duty is seeing what the commands of Allah is, seeing what He wants, and fulfilling it. And this is the secret. This will bring us towards ubudiyat, this practice of wajibat and staying away from muharramat. This brings this attribute of being a servant of Allah. And with this quality of being a servant of Allah, you now are able to see calamities and see difficulties in a different light. You see just how Allah has made wajib for you this salat. Allah has made wajib for you to have patience against this calamity. In the same niyat, same intention, you have sabr and you fulfill it. And then you notice that you have reached a different station in spirituality, and that you've gained this enjoyment now, that you are throughout the day fulfilling the obligations that Allah has, and you're submitting to His will. Please recite a salawat. When do we understand this trait of being a slave and a servant of Allah, and enjoying being a servant and slave and looking for commands? A lot of times, if we're busy in the dunya, we don't notice this, we don't feel this yearn to be a servant of Allah. When do we feel it? A lot of times it's in holy times, like in the month of Ramadan. When you ask, it's not the night of Qadr, for example, and people ask, different people, they ask scholars, what should I do tonight? What should I do? Now they have left their entire world and their dunya and their entire plan, and they ask, what does Allah want? What is His command for tonight? This is the sense of ubudiyat coming out in them, especially in the night of Qadr. So we have this sense in us that we want a command from Allah. We want to see what to do. We want to please Him, but not always is this or this love for being a slave of Allah present in us. It becomes present sometimes in holy times. It becomes present sometimes in holy places. When we go to Hajj, when we go to Masjid al-Haram, sometimes we ask, what dua should I do now? What should I say? This means now that finally being a servant of Allah and liking and loving being a servant of Allah is coming out in us. We're asking, I don't want to do this action, I like this dua, I want to do ibadat this way. When you become truly a sincere abd of Allah, then you ask for what does Allah want and what is the best thing to do right now. When you look at the holy people and spiritual people that have developed ubudiyat in them, you see how meticulous they are when it comes to, say, small Islamic laws, the Tawzi al-Masail or the Risala. They look at little laws and they say, oh, Allah wants me to do this first, then to step, enter something very even mustahab sometimes, something very small, may enter the restroom with my right foot first and exit with my left foot first, something very small. We see they give their entire lives, is how the narration said, وَجُمْلَةُ إِشْتِغَالِهِ فِيمَا أَمَرَهُ تَعَالَى. Their entire attention, their entire life now becomes, what does Allah want from me right now? What is His command? And this be said as somebody, as they start to become purified, especially this is what we want in the month of Muharram. And we want to know the secret that what did Imam Hussain alayhi salam do to deal with all this bala and all this calamities. We see it is through this sense, this training that he is teaching us, that he is an abd of Allah, even though he's an infallible Imam. He is an abd of Allah, and he's seeing what Allah wants, the decrees He wants from Allah, and while he's fulfilling them, even though they are bitter, they are bala, he is getting closer and his rank is getting higher and higher and higher to Allah. And it's through this bitterness there is this joy. There is this joy that now you are connected to Allah. In one of the nights, the 10th night of Ashura, Imam Hussain alayhi salam says this is the peak of the ubudiyat and being a servant and submitting to Allah of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And we say, Abba Abdullah. He is the father of worshipping of Allah. He's the father of the servants of Allah, of being a servant of Allah. It says this in this khutbah that Imam Hussain gave. He said that يقول لأصحابه أثني على الله أحسن الثناء وأحمده على السراء والضراء. I praise Allah, one of the best and most beautiful praises. This is the night of Ashura before he becomes murdered, before he becomes killed and his family members get killed. He says that I praise Allah, the best of praises, and I do hamd of Allah ala sarra'i wa dharra, and I do hamd and I am do shukr of Allah, praise to Allah upon good things, surur and dharra, good things and bad things. I do hamd of Allah. Allahumma inni ahmadu ala an akramtana bin nubuwwah. He says, Allah, true, this bala is going to happen to me tomorrow, but I thank you for giving us the Ahlul Bayt in our family nubuwwat. Wa allamtana al-Quran. And I thank you, Allah, that you have taught us the Quran. Imam Hussain alayhi salam is seeing the true ni'mat of Allah and teaching us that these other balas are nothing, because he is a true servant of Allah. And we said from that narration from Imam Ali, true blessings are what? Having taqwa al-qalb. That is the best thing that Allah can give you. And this is what Imam Hussain alayhi salam is saying. Thank you for teaching me the Quran. Thank you for putting nubuwwat in our family. وَوَفَّقْتَنَا فِي الدِّينِ, and you gave us the success of religion. وَجَعَلْتَ لَنَا أَسْمًا وَأَبْصَارًا وَأَفْئِدًا, and you gave us ears, you gave us eyes, you gave us hearts. Imam Hussain is doing shukr of these ni'mats of Allah. فَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الشَّاكِرِينَ. Ya Allah, make us of the shakirin. Make those that truly appreciate you. See, brothers and sisters, sometimes if we are faced with a calamity, just that we can just go past this calamity, that's very good for us. But the Ahlul Bayt are teaching us this. Not only when this calamity befalls you, if this bala happens to you, also be of the shakirin. In the middle of this fire, the fire of calamity, also be of the shakirin. Thank Allah for it. Why? We said with this explanation that I am an abd of Allah, I am a servant of Allah, and I know that this bala is making me elevate my rank. And that is why, brothers and sisters, Imam Hussain alayhi salam is the key for us in our happiness, in our sa'adat. Because He is teaching us how to deal with bala. And we said the more that you minimize your pains, the more that you eliminate your pains, the happier you'll be. When He teaches us, and He has a great lesson of how to deal with pain. Why? By looking at bala as being good for you, a bitter test for you, but it's making you get close to Allah and giving you this new rank, making you an abd of Allah. And after it's done, you're going to thank Allah because you have this new connection. You're a much stronger person. You don't have fear anymore. And also, at the other hand, what does Imam Hussain alayhi salam do for us? He gives us true joy. Because that liddat and that excitement of being connected to Imam Hussain is true liddat. Didn't he talk about the Quran? Didn't he talk about Nubuwwat? And he thanked Allah for it compared to the balas that were going to happen to him. The true joy and liddat of connecting to Imam Hussain, and those that taste, basically, and I will talk about this inshallah the following nights, that this liddat of being connected to Imam Hussain is priceless. You cannot change it with anything. If those that have tasted it, those that they say, masalan, and some of the things, they become majnoon al-Hussain, they say, masalan, they become crazy for Imam Hussain. If you give them the entire world, or you say, give me the love of Imam Hussain, they'll take the love of Imam Hussain. Because they have tasted Ashura, they have tasted this connection. So Imam Hussain alayhi salam is happiness for us. He teaches us how to deal with our pains. He teaches us how to look at the world as mawlawiyat and ubudiyat, as master and servant. And also He is giving us this great joy. There are narrations, and I'll share to you, that the joy of Imam Hussain and the Day of Judgment, there will be those, it's not as if they say everybody sees Imam Hussain all the time in heaven. Maybe some people for 100, 200 years it'll take for them to see the manifestation of Imam Hussain in heaven. But there are those people that even before they enter heaven, they are speaking to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. They're Huddathul Hussain. They speak to Imam Hussain. They come to them, they say, enter paradise, the best pleasures, the best enjoyment that you can imagine. But they say, no, we are talking with Imam Hussain. Then they test them again, they bring them the hur that maybe everybody will fall for them. Then they don't even raise their faces to even see who they are. They are talking to Imam Hussain. Imam Hussain, connecting him and reaching to him is one of the greatest joys. But it takes ma'rifat and it takes cognition and purity to understand this joy. It doesn't happen all of a sudden. With dealing with pains, with ubudiyat and following the commands of Allah and looking and listening to what Allah wants from me, and observing the entire world as these are balas that Allah wants for me, but at the end it's for the mu'mineen, it says in the narrations. These are specific for the mu'mineen. Why? Because Allah wants to train them and to raise them and make them strong and connect, wants them to be close to Him. We learn and we become happy, because we said happiness has two sides, pain and has joy, eliminating pain and increasing joy. We eliminate pain through Imam Hussain and learning through Ashura and becoming an abd of Allah. We get true joy in connecting, and we become, as we said, majnoon al-Hussain, true love of Imam Hussain, and he gives us complete happiness and sa'adat. And that is why maybe we say we curse those that have hurt Imam Hussain, or they came to fight against Imam Hussain, because Imam Hussain was the sa'adat and happiness for the entire humanity. And they came and surrounded him to eliminate the happiness and felicity of all of society and all of civilization. You can please recite a salawat right now. If we can dim the lights. Tonight is the night that in some cultures it is known that they remember the ashab of Imam Hussain, the companions of Imam Hussain. Imam Hussain had companions, and each of them were in different levels. Some of them were followers of Yazid, were generals of Yazid, like Hur. but they become aghabat bi-khair. With one look of Imam Hussain, their entire existence changes because they taste that love, that joy of Imam Hussain that we said is higher than heaven, that Imam Hussain becomes their heaven. Ya Hussain, what did you do that someone like Hur, with one look, one attention that you gave to him, you reached such a high status that our infallible Imams give salams to you. Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq gives salams to Hur and the Shuhada of Imam Hussain. He was a Yazidi, but Imam Hussain with one look made him Hussaini. We see different companions of Imam Hussain, some that even tried to avoid them, that were Uthmani, like Zuhair. They tried to avoid Imam Hussain, but one look at the beautiful face of Imam Hussain made him Hussaini. One attention and beautiful glance of Imam Hussain made him again one of those that Imam as-Sadiq and the Imams say salams to when they do ziyarat. We have higher companions because not all the companions are in one level. We have Habib ibn Mazahir and this old man. In 1 second, he knew he was going to be martyred. He is of the khas. He knew he will be martyred. When they told him that Imam Hussain needs help right away without even going home to see anything, right away from where he was in the street, he walked and went towards Karbala. That is Habib ibn Mazahir. One of the companions of tonight is a true companion of Imam Hussain. So there's different levels. One of them is Sayyid ibn Abdullah Hanafi. Sayyid ibn Abdullah Hanafi, they say that in Ziyarat al-Nahiyya Muqaddasa that is attributed to Imam Zaman, or parts of Ziyarat al-Nahiyya, that the 12th Imam does salam to him in the Ziyarat. He reached such a status that Imam al-Zaman says salam to him. Sayyid ibn Abdullah Hanafi, according to Shaykh Tusi in his Rijal, says, Huwa ahadu ashab al-rasikhin. He is of the rasikhin, he is of the good companions, the great companions of Imam Hussain, the top companions of Imam Hussain. He is one of those people that when he was asked about martyrdom with Imam Hussain, and he said this, Wallah, Allahumma, he said basically in this dua, Wallah law a'lamu anni uqtalu thumma uhya thumma uhraq thumma udri wa yuf'al bidhalika 70 marra ma faraqtuk. If I were to be burnt, if I were to be killed, if I were to be given life again, and I were to be killed 70 times, I would not leave you, Hussain. And he did this. Sayyid ibn Abdullah Hanafi. Some people think it's easy. They say, I wish I was with Imam Hussain alayhi salam. One of the ulama, they say he had this attitude that he thought that, oh, it's easy. If you see Imam Hussain, you love him, you see his nur, and you follow him, and you get hit with arrows and spears, and you think it's something easy. Then he had a dream. He had a dream that he was in Ashura, and the arrows were coming towards him, and when each arrow came, he dodged it, and it would hit Imam Hussain. Again, another arrow came, and he dodged it. He understood that it's much difficult being in front of 30,000 people, the army of Yazid, and being able to be a true companion and loyal companion of Imam Hussain like Sayyid ibn Abdullah al-Hanafi. At Salat al-Dhuhr, Imam Hussain alayhi salam on the day of Ashura, he wants to do Salat. One of those that volunteered to take the arrows that were being shot at Imam Hussain was Sayyid ibn Abdullah. Sayyid ibn Abdullah stands very bravely in front of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, not allowing an arrow to hit Imam Hussain. 13 arrows he takes. 13 arrows, some in his face, some in his body. And these people, these great companions, they never thought that because they did this, Imam Hussain owes them something. They always thought themselves they are in debt to Imam Hussain. Imam Hussain is their master. Imam Hussain has showed them the love of Allah. They are in debt to Imam Hussain. After these 13 arrows, they say, Imam Hussain comes to him, comes his great companions. And just how we love Imam Hussain alayhi salam, Imam Hussain loves us and loves his companions. When Muslim ibn Aqil was martyred and some of his companions, Imam Hussain had sentences as if the world doesn't mean anything anymore. I have lost the world when this companion is now lost. Imam Hussain comes to Sayyid ibn Abdullah al-Hanafi and he says this to him. He says, Ya Hussain, awafaytu yabna Rasulullah. He says, O son of the Prophet, have I fulfilled my promise? Have I been loyal to you? Then Imam Hussain says something beautiful, that this is the entire dream of all the Hussaini people. He says this to him, Na'am, anta amami fil jannah. Not that you're in front of me, because nobody is in front of Imam Hussain, Imam, that you will be with me in heaven. You will be with me, and this is the entire dream of all the lovers of Imam Hussain, to rest eternity with Imam Hussain. Not that Imam Hussain, his manifestation will come 100, 200 years once, that they are always with Imam Hussain. And this is the greatest joy for a believer. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ahla baytihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin.